If Doctor runs through darkness like behind, Paul McGann's bringing life to the madness. TARDIS swirling, time splitting in the blackness. TV movie stars up fans and the chatter. Time goes back, but does it really matter? 90s vibes with a dash of confusion. Journey on through a time-loaded illusion. Rewind, rewind the timey wimey line. Look back, look now to what we find. Rewind, rewind every twist, every turn. Doctors in chaos all crash and burn.
Hello and welcome to Timey Wimey Rewind, brought to you by Cult Classic Society, a podcast adventure in space and time where we aim to watch and break down every Doctor Who episode ever. Tim, we're going to start with 2005's revival, but for our pilot, if you will, backdoor pilot, which we're going to sneak in as also episode 50 of Cult Classic Society, because we're sneaky like that. We're going to do the 1996 TV movie. Introducing me, your host, a quirky English hero with an unconventional yet roguish good looks, Bobby Davies, and my co-host, an amorphous snake-like blob who will try to enter your body, Tim Martini.
That's fairly accurate. I will say that's fairly accurate.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it.
I was going to say, well, like Doctor Who. I feel like this is a show that we've already spoken about twice on the mainline program, but do we just want to give a quick run through of just our love for this show, just like a brief overview of why we decided this?
You know what, Tim? That's not a bad idea, and you don't have many good ones, so let's do it. Okay. I started watching Doctor Who in 2007. I didn't catch the initial relaunch. My friends were watching it. It was around the time of the end of David Tennant's second series, Series 3, and they're obsessed with it. I said, what is their obsession with this? I love a bit of sci-fi. Let me take a look. So I started watching with what will be the next episode we cover, Rose, and yeah, pretty much immediately fell in love with the show.
Cool. So I did start in 2005, but not when the show was on the air. Basically, my friend had the first volume of season 1, so it was the first 3 episodes on DVD, and he let me borrow it, going, this is a really cool show, you should watch it. So watched it, and then I started borrowing each subsequent volume from my local library. And then it was like, oh, the Christmas special's coming on. And this is when we have the new Doctor, the guy who showed up at the end of the last episode of this season. Well, you're going to see him in action now. I was like, okay, I better watch this. And then that's how I just fell in love. And apart from a brief stint in 2014, I haven't missed a single episode. We'll get to that in when we get to that.
We'll get to that in our time in about 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
The plan is, with this is going to be our new 2-weekly episode. The regular Cult Classic Society episodes, you'll find them every 4-6 weeks or so. There's going to be less of a rigorous schedule. But we'll talk about that at the end of this, and you'll find out what we're doing next on there, and we'll get where we're going next with Timey Wimey Rewind. So just sit back and enjoy it. We got some facts for you.
We have some facts, we have some opinions, we have some reading of the text in more ways than one. It's going to be exciting.
Doctor Who 1996 TV movie, directed by Jeffrey Sachs, written by Matthew Jacobs. If you go on IMDb, for some reason they say Sidney Newman also wrote it. Sidney Newman did not write it. Sidney Newman wrote the originals back in the 1960s. Was nothing to do with this movie.
I think it's probably just based on the characters but then IMDb just fucked it up.
Yeah. So we've got sections. We've never done sections before, Tim. This is going to be interesting.
This was so official now that
I know.
We actually have a plan.
Initial facts. Let's talk about them. Made in an attempt to relaunch Doctor Who worldwide, but with a focus on the UK and the US. It was a backdoor pilot for a new Doctor Who series. The last Doctor Who TV episode before this was Survival, starring the 7th Doctor Sylvester McCoy, back in 1989 with his companion Ace, played by Sophie Aldred. That was 7 years before this, so there had been a bit of a dry spell of Doctor Who in terms of television and movies. What we did have was books in that time, The Virgin New Adventures and a few other things, which depending how this goes, we may well end up covering stuff like that, but we'll see.
Was Big Finish around at this time?
Big Finish came later, I think.
Oh, okay. Because I know Nicholas Brigg did unofficial audiobooks.
Yeah. But I think the official Big Finish stuff was around 98. I might be wrong there. We'll check before the end and dub it back in. This was broadcast. This had 3 different broadcasts across kind of Western English-speaking countries. So it went out first in Canada, May 12th, 96. Then May 14th, 96 in the US. And then we didn't get it till May 27th.
It's our show. Why do we get a last?
when America puts the money in, though, they go first.
Fair.
The reason Canada got it so early is because it was all shot in Canada.
Oh, it was shot in Vancouver, wasn't it?
Yeah. It went there. This is a nice little tidbit for you, which thank you the people at TARDIS Wiki, because that's where a lot of this facts are going to come from. That and IMDb and the DVD and Blu-ray extras. That's where we get most of our info from. But it went out at 8:30 p.m. on BBC One.
That's late for Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think so. It got quite a high rating. I think it got 12 in the UK because of the gun violence.
Makes sense, yeah.
So it went out late. It went out kind of pushing the watershed. The watershed in the UK is 9 p.m, which is when, after that, basically you're allowed to swear and kill people on telly. Was dropped on VHS in 96. I was really tempted to buy one. But the PAL version is the edited one that went out on BBC. So the BBC one had some scenes cut down for fear of the gun violence and a few other things. The VHS version is that, and I've got a CRT TV with a VHS player attached that I use for kind of retro video games. I nearly bought one. I was like, I'm going to make my notes using a VHS copy. I didn't, because I didn't want an edited down version.
That's fair enough.
Also, really interestingly, there was a laser disc version. I've got like a weird obsession with laser discs because I didn't even know they were a thing. They just kind of passed me by. I was too young, I think, and we would never have been able to afford it anyway. Plus, it didn't do very well. It's like the Betamax version of a DVD.
I'd say because what lasers is like massive as well, and
they're 12 inches.
You had to go through 4 of them for like one movie.
No, they could hold data, but that's because they were so massive.
Oh yeah.
So this was released on a laser disc. It was only released in Hong Kong. There are other ones that were released in the UK. There was 6 total Doctor Who laser discs, and this is one of them. And yeah, I've got a weird obsession with laser discs because I didn't know what they were. And I found out because a guy I used to work with was showing me, like, he's got a ridiculous selection of stuff, including lots of Doctor Who stuff.
You know that you say you're obsessed with lasers. I'm obsessed with Betamax. I just love the idea of that, and like, 'cause it's like a lost art form now.
Failed VHS, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing about laser discs is, though, they're so like akin to a record as well. They're big artwork, but the players they're not expensive, but they go for more money than you'd think. You wanted to try and get a player.
Well, because it's lost media now, so it's going to have more value.
There's basically a line. You could probably run a business solely off of repairing old Betamax, VHS, and Laserdisc machines, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
The DVD release, original first one, 2001. That is the version I have on DVD with this cover.
Oh, the iconic one, yeah.
So that's the original release of the movie. It was also then re-released on DVD with more extras in 2011. It had a different cover. I don't have that. But then it was re-released again on Blu-ray in 2016, which this one has a bunch of extras. This is how I watched it, Tim, on Blu-ray, with the extras on here. How did you watch it?
BBC iPlayer.
Oh, you watched the cut-down version.
Because I was not going to spend money when I can easily access it in the Whoniverse.
That's fair enough. The cast. This is another section, Tim. Look, we're rattling through this. So, obviously, we need a new movie. We need a new Doctor. We got Paul McGann. He's the 8th Doctor. Played by Paul McGann. The 8th Doctor, Paul McGann.
It's like Dark Place. It's Paul McGann playing the 8th Doctor, playing Paul McGann.
Exactly. He's known for the Three Musketeers, With Nell and I, and would later star in things like Hornblower. A lot of people know who Paul McGann was. He weirdly now seems to make his living off of doing Doctor Who stuff. Audio dramas and signing as and
can I say, at the time of the recording, he just did like a live show recording for Big Finish.
Yeah, a live like Eighth Doctor adventure, right? And there was a TARDIS on stage. It was pretty cool.
I only saw the footage of it through Reels because I was like, let me buy a ticket. How much is the cheapest one? 50 quid. No, thank you.
Eric Roberts plays the Master. Well, kind of. He's the Master inhabiting Bruce's body. At the time, he was probably the biggest star in this. He was known for a show called Star 80, I think called Best of the Best. He would later go on to be a recurring villain in Heroes, and he was in The Dark Knight as well.
Yeah, he's one of the mob bosses. He's just one of those actors like you will just see everywhere. He'll always just be like a mob boss character in almost like every TV show or movie. He's in The Expendables. He was in an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I think it's that haircut, you know.
I think it's the face as well. He just had like an evil like mobster face.
Yeah. Daphne Ashbrook plays the new companion, Grace Holloway, known for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I've still never got into Star Trek. I have tried. An old friend of mine, he tried to get me into the Netflix one, saying it was good. Still never got into
Discovery.
Yeah.
That one's a really weird one to try and get someone into Star Trek with.
Don't ask me.
Just go. You're probably never going to watch it, even if I force you for the podcast. Watch Next Generation. That's the easiest one to get into. It's actually just the best one because you have like Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, the man.
Yes, the legend.
So she was also in the OC and Jag. Made a decent, she's still acting as well. And then we have kind of a new Master/Doctor companion with Chang Li, who is played by Li Ji Tao, who, poor guy, he's appeared with such credits as scientist in an episode of Arrow in 2014, agent in a film called Interrogation in 2016, and this is the one that really got me, Asian Guy 1 from a film called Alcatraz in 2012, or a TV show it might be. I was like, oh man, considering he's quite good in this as well. Like, I think he plays his role.
No, I don't think he was a good actor in this.
I think he played the role he needed to quite well.
No, I wasn't a fan of him in this. I wasn't a fan of his acting. I wasn't a fan of the character.
Fair enough. We also get returning Doctor Sylvester McCoy for a very brief stint at the first 10 minutes or so, not even.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about Sylvester McCoy when the time comes. I don't really want to go too much into him now because at some point we'll be covering more of his stuff. And
eventually, yeah.
We're going to talk about what's happening in the real world at the time of the release and at the time the episode / in this case movie is set. So I've got some stuff for you too. I've got some stuff that was happening in the grander world of pop culture.
Come on, hit me with it.
1996, when the UK broadcast of the Doctor Who TV movie happened, Gina G was at number 1 with Ooh Ah, Just a Little Bit. A week later, this is interesting for you, 1996, Euro 96, held in England. A week later, the number 1 was Three Lions.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Number 1 movie in the box office, May of 1996, Twister.
Oh.
And we've just had a sequel or a remake, I don't know what it is. Something.
A sequel, yeah.
Closely followed by Mission Impossible. But Mission Impossible didn't come out till the end of the month, so I think if it had come out at the same time, it probably would have beaten it.
I think so, because, the first Mission Impossible was good, apart from, the overly CG ending. I think the first Mission Impossible holds up really well.
I think 96 also, we didn't have, the access to all the criticism, so I think people mostly went to the movies on, good faith anyway.
Yeah.
Most watched TV broadcast. You only get these kind of by the year. So this might not be one we do every time, but every time we hit a new year, I might bring it up. It was Only Fools and Horses, a special called Heroes and Villains, the one where they dressed as Batman and Robin.
Okay, that is a very iconic imagery for Only Fools and Horses. I think that's one of the biggest images that always gets brought up whenever you just look at the show.
Yeah. So they're your pop culture things in the zeitgeist. Do you want to know what was in the news, Tim? We were all worried about the outbreak of mad cow disease.
Well, you say we. I wasn't even conceived.
Yes. And at the time, I did eat meat because I was a child and it should ought to. But now if it broke out again, I don't think either of us would be worried.
Yeah, we'd be fine.
Now, this is one of those weird ones where we're going to have two things that we can talk about, two eras we can discuss. Because we've also got the New Year's Eve, 99 into 2000.
Y2K.
Yeah, we have the actual time the movie was released, 96. That's what was going on. Now, what was going on in 99, 2000? Westlife were running rampant with a Christmas #1 of I Have a Dream / Seasons in the Sun. I think it was a double A side. Was #1 for 4 fucking weeks.
Jesus.
#1 movie in the box office in the month of December going into January. Toy Story 2. Fucking excellent movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it was What Culture? Someone, I watched a YouTube mini, I think it was What Culture, did a mini documentary about it. No, I'll tell you who it was. I'm sorry to do this to you, lads. It was the Rest of Talk guys with their new Screen Talk or whatever it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, they did a little piece on Toy Story 2 and how everyone says, remember there was an outrage a little while ago because the woman who saved Toy Story 2 because she had a version saved on her computer at home got fired. So everyone was like, how can you fire? She actually didn't save the movie at all. Because the one she saved was the original version that they went on to change anyway. They basically scrapped most of it afterwards anyway.
Okay.
It's a nice story that Disney likes to tell, but apparently it's not true.
I'm interested.
Biggest UK TV broadcast, 99, was an episode of Coronation Street in March for some fucking reason.
Someone probably died.
And in the news, you said it, then what were we worried about? We were worried about Y2K. Letting off nukes
Chris
and...
Jericho.
Oh no, that's Y2J.
Oh, yeah.
What was you doing at the time of the release of this episode, Tim? How old were you?
I was -2 years old.
Yes. Just a twinkle in your father's eye. What were you doing? I don't know if you even remember, but you might be able to ask your mother. What did you do New Year's Eve 99 into 2000?
Crying, pissing, shitting, all in a diaper.
No, I didn't say into 2024.
I told you that in confidence, Bobby.
Well, I can talk about this because I was born and I do have...
You would remember what you were doing.
So, in May 1996, I was 7 years old. I would have been heading with gusto out the end of year 3, heading into year 4. Big times ahead. Big times ahead. And at the turn of the millennium, I was 11. And I was at home with my mum and my brother and sister. And we stayed up till midnight. I think they went to bed at like 5 past. I probably stayed up till 1 o'clock. My mum, I really vividly remember it. My mum got like loads of snacks and stuff in lieu of like going anywhere. Did like a big table of snacks and fizzy drinks, and we stayed up till midnight. And
what was she stocking? Because in case of the Y2K bug.
No, I don't think like breadsticks and Pringles are going to get us very far.
This will last us 2 days.
We're all stories in the end. Just make it a good one, eh?
So, we're going to get into it. The plot breakdown. Anyone who's familiar with our other episodes of Cult Classic Society, that was kind of based on a whole plot breakdown. We just spoke about kind of every intricate point. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be a skip through. It's not going to be the synopsis. We are still going to break it down fairly detailed, but not to the detail we did before. Probably going to take us about 15-20 minutes for the movie, maybe a tad longer. Later episodes maybe a bit quicker, but there's a fair bit to get through. So that you, listening, can understand the plot of the movie.
I think we're ready to go.
Anything I missed that you think's important, stop me.
Cool.
And if it's not important, you will be punished.
Demerit.
The Doctor. We start with the Doctor, the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy. He is called upon to collect the remains of his nemesis, the Master, another Time Lord. He is kind of mortal enemy, but former friend. He's collecting from the Daleks, from Skaro, for war crimes. We get a nice voiceover by McGann kind of explaining all this. We'll go into detail about that later. But it was originally recorded by Gordon Tipple, who is the guy in the Master suit who's being executed.
Oh, okay.
So he would be like another faceless, but he had a voice version of the Master that we didn't get to see. We cut to the new TARDIS interior. It's all wood and like Victorian and oak. It's kind of retro-futuristic, gothic-inspired. I fucking love it.
See, I like it, but I'm also just like very... Okay, it shows like this movie had a budget, and it's very impressive. It's the only time we ever get this, and it feels, compared to like prior and future TARDISes, so out of place.
I think it suits McGann more than it suits McCoy, which is weird.
I agree to that.
But I actually really like it. I wish we had more of this. I wish that, say, the War Doctor, when we get to meet him later, still had it, or at least like a modified version of it.
Yeah, I agree to that. I think it was weird that he had basically just another modern interior.
Yeah, he had kind of like the white ones as well, though, from the original series.
Because he had the round things.
Yes, yeah, and 10 and 11 were very impressed by the round things. Now, you say you can see they had a budget here. Do you want to know how much this TARDIS cost?
How much?
$1 million.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a budget.
Yeah, I wish we got to see it more. It would have just ended up getting scrapped in a fucking backlot. It's so sad.
Yeah.
The Doctor is headed to Gallifrey with the remains of the Master when the Master's oozy form escapes the casket-y thing he's got it in. The Doctor's having a read of the Time Machine by H.G. Wells, and as he's doing so, the oozy Master, I don't even know how to describe it. He basically looks like fucking animated cum. He's like slightly clear and slightly white. And
it's gooey. There's a gooey residue everywhere.
Yes, but he like gets his way into the TARDIS console, forces an emergency landing, and they land in San Francisco in 1999.
Wait, so does that mean the TARDIS interacted with Sutek at that? The Master interacted with Sutek?
Maybe. I don't even want to get into that now. Like, we'll get into that in like 7 years when we get to that episode.
That's what we keep doing now. Every time something bad happens to the TARDIS, I'm just going to mention Sutek.
I think, Tim, we should always be referring backwards, which in the first episode isn't really an option. But I don't want to refer forward too much. Because...
But this is canon. That's the thing. This is officially canon.
I know it is. It is.
And it's stupid.
But there'll be people
who are like... Bobby, this is foreshadowing for people who haven't watched it yet.
And also, this is the thing. I know there's a couple of people who have said to me, I'm looking forward to this because I've never watched Doctor Who before and I've been meaning to. And actually what I'll do is I'll watch along with you. We like having a commentary or something to go with it. And like, yeah, it will. But now you're just confusing everyone, Tim.
It's fun. It works. Don't worry. The question.
There's a shootout between some gangs, and Chang Li, who is our new master companion, we'll call him as we get there, is one of them. The TARDIS materializes kind of in front of Chang Li, and as the Doctor steps out, he gets mowed down by a fucking hail of bullets. And this is why the BBC edited some of it out.
Yeah, because they just like had their icon getting gunned down. Okay, can I ask you, out of all of the Doctor deaths up until this point, so from 1 to McCoy, where does this rank, like out of like worst to best?
In a way, because it's not a soft death, it feels like one of the best. Like, he actually gets done in a fucking gang shootout. Whereas, was it one of them got poisoned? Tom Baker fell off of a...
Tom Baker fell like gold, like in Gold Age, fell like a mountaintop or something.
There was like a satellite dish, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, he was holding on to satellite, then like he just fell and splattered.
Not even that far. Like, the first Doctor basically dies of old age. The second one's forced to regenerate.
Yeah.
6 just... The TARDIS has a wobble and he falls over and hits his head. Like,
6 is objectively the worst.
Yeah. I think this, up to this point, was the best one.
Yeah, I agree. I just think because, like, maybe it was just like the shock of it when I first watched it all those years ago. Yeah. Like, just seeing it just happen, like, so quickly.
I think we needed that, Tim. It was the 90s. It was time for something raw. The Chang Li calls an ambulance for the Doctor, and as this happens, we see the Master oozing from the TARDIS keyhole. A paramedic, who is Bruce, that is the man. I've already forgotten the fucking actor's name.
Eric Roberts.
The man Eric Roberts is kind of playing until the Master takes over his body, and he gets Chang Li to sign some papers as they get the Doctor into the ambulance, and he uses the Doctor's alias, John Smith, which he uses before. He'll go on to use again. But it's the Doctor's like old favourite alias.
It's the most common name.
Yeah. Well, it's the two essentially most common. This is the most common first and most common surname in the world. I don't know as a combo if they are actually that common.
No, I don't think it actually is.
So I think if you had the surname Smith, you're probably not going to call your kid John.
No, because
Because of
everyone thinks
that.
you're just lying.
Yeah. There is a hospital scene where they try to save the doctor, and it's been intentionally. So this is really great about the Blu-ray. There's a little thing, a little setting you can put on, and it has little notes at the bottom.
Okay.
And it was heavily inspired by ER and intentionally shot like a medical drama for this bit, which I think is pretty cool. The doctor is x-rayed, and this is the second time he's been x-rayed, and the medical experts are confused as to why he has two hearts. It happened in Spearhead from Space, which is the first John Pertwee episode. The third Doctor, for those who aren't there yet. We meet Grace now. She's a surgeon. She's on call when she's at the opera watching Madame Butterfly, and her pager goes off, and she is brought into work, and her boyfriend Brian is pissed about it.
Yeah.
They go to operate on the doctor, and the anaesthetic kind of doesn't work. Eventually, they get him under, but Grace gets lost when she's using the microscopic camera. Again, for the uninitiated, the doctor has two hearts. He has a binary vascular system. So when she tries to put is it an endoscope? I don't know what it's called. The little camera.
Yeah, the end of the scope, yeah.
At his chest, she gets lost. And another little tidbit for you here, which is on the Blu-ray again. The footage on the screens in the room is a real endoscope going through someone's body. It's not animated, it's nothing. Yeah, it's from a real procedure, and I assumed they got the permission of the person it was, and yeah.
Because we had our side. It's like, now I would say that footage.
The doctor flatlines, and they lose him. He's gone. The doctor is dead. Chang Li makes off with the doctor's possessions. He snatches them from Grace, saying he'll give them back to his family, but then he runs off when she tries to say no.
Yeah.
Back at Bruce's flat, the master, who is still in his Uzi form, has stowed away in Bruce's jacket, and he takes over Bruce's body. The doctor's body gets put into cold storage, and this is where he regenerates into the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann. We had a bit of a struggle and some lighting effects, and that's kind of how they do it with this one. They don't do the big explosions, we're not there yet. They also don't do the kind of very basic face whirl from the original.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle. But
I actually liked the contorted face of it. I think it looks really cool.
do you want to know how they did that?
Sure.
It was just Sylvester McCoy's face. He could do, because he was initially a comedy actor, and he's got a very rubber face like Jim Carrey. So he was doing a proper like stretch of the face, like a, and that's how they did it. And it like gave the visual effects team something to map Paul McGann's face to.
That's really cool.
It's cool, right? At the same time this is happening, the porters are watching the original Frankenstein movie, and it kind of times with Dr. Frankenstein being like, "It's alive!"
Honestly, that sequence is incredible.
Yeah, but we go from... I don't know if he's trying to put too many metaphors in here. Apparently this second metaphor wasn't meant, but it's more pronounced than the Frankenstein metaphor, I think. Because the Doctor smashes out of the cold storage. For some reason he has super strength straight after regenerating. Maybe because it was held back, I don't know. There's no explanation really. But he comes out in a white shroud, and he looks like fucking Jesus.
I was gonna say, like, him having super strength isn't like the most peculiar thing, because like, remember, well, I guess no, we don't want to reference forward, but obviously it's Matt Smith regeneration energy.
See, I think that had a reasoning in that he was given a brand new set of regenerations, like loads of power all at once. And it's just, I think, in my headcanon, the next time we see the Eighth Doctor is a mini episode for the 50th anniversary, and he gets a forced regeneration. And I wonder if that's what starts making them all explosive. Because up to this point, they've not been explosive.
Yeah.
The Doctor ambles around and screams, and it does the super cheesy line, "Who am I?"
Well, no, he goes, "Who am I?"
I think Paul McGann is an excellent actor, but that's cheesy. Like, it's hard to get around some cheesy ass dialogue, right?
Yeah.
The Doctor goes hunting for a fresh fit. He patches some stuff together from a bunch of costumes, because we kind of get it briefly mentioned. Some of the doctors and nurses and hospital staff, whatever, are going to a New Year's Eve party. There's a dress-up party, costume party.
Yeah.
And he kind of mostly uses a Wild Bill Hickok costume, who is like an Old West law enforcer, I think, or bounty hunter or something like that.
Yeah.
We cut to the hospital boss telling Grace to keep the doctor dying and that he was ever there and that there was something wrong under wraps. And Grace says, if you do, I'll quit. And he says, no, you won't. So she quits. As she leaves, the doctor follows her. He's shoeless though at this point. Still, he's got the rest of his fit, but he's still shoeless.
He's still got a John Doe tag on his toe as well.
Yes, because obviously he didn't know his real name. The doctor tells Grace he knows who she is, and she's like, no, you don't. Fuck off.
I just realised we missed a bit where Chang Li steals the doctor's stuff from Grace's office.
No, I mentioned that. You just weren't.
Did
You just weren't listening. I said he swiped.
Sorry, Bobby. I find it hard to pay attention to like most days.
Leave the comedy to me. You're not funny, Tim. You're basically here.
When you get good at it, Bobby, I will.
You're basically here for me to pick on, right? I've got younger siblings. I know how to pick on people. You're an only child. You don't know what you're doing. He lets himself into her car. The doctor lets himself into Grace's car, and we see that he like has the nano wire still from the camera in his chest, and he pulls it out, and that's when she's like, oh, okay, there's something weird going on here. And she drives off with him in the car, and she's like freaking out, being like, they're gonna kill me. The master comes and tries to get the doctor's body first, and then he tries to get the doctor's things from this kind of window. Like this woman who clearly fancies Bruce, the person whose body's been taken, kind of tries to flirt with him, and he's like very cold. And then he's like, oh, the kid who brought him in took the stuff, and he goes, the Asian child, which I think is really fucking funny. The Doctor and Grace arrive at her place. That rhymed, didn't mean to. Brian's fucked off. The Doctor starts to remember bits about his life. Grace realizes that he definitely has two hearts because she does a little check, and she's like, "But you can't turn back time." And he says, "Yes, I fucking can." These are not exact quotes, people. This is just Chang Li goes into the TARDIS because he's got the Doctor's stuff. He's got the key, and he does the classic, "Whoa, what the fuck is this?" Then leaves and walks around the outside because the TARDIS, for those who don't know, is bigger on the inside. It is, dimensionally transcendental.
Yes.
So
yes, I don't know if that's correct, but I'm going to say yes.
The outside is like 1.5 meters squared, and the inside is cavernous.
Yes.
And there's a plot hole here that was left behind by something they cut out. For some reason, somehow, the Master is already in the TARDIS.
He just went back through the keyhole.
Yeah. Well, but he's got a body now. So there's two things.
It still works. It still works. He just like forced himself in there.
There's two things I think about this, right? One, we find out later that the Doctor hides a key on the outside of the TARDIS. So maybe the Master knows about that, did it, and then put it back. Maybe. But what they should have just done, Lee walks in and he just leaves the doors open behind him, doesn't he? So why does the Master not step through behind him as if he's following him? That makes way more sense, right?
Yeah. I think in the novel, that is how it's written.
I think it is as well, yeah. The Master is now full leather daddy.
Yes.
And he hypnotizes Lee to hand over the stuff. But he lets him go pretty quickly. But he does convince him that the Doctor has stolen his body and that that Chang Li needs to help him. And what does he do to convince Chang Li to...
He gives him 2 bags of gold dust.
Yes, that's important. Remember that later. Not that gold dust. Remember that later, because I've got sections again. This is just plot. We'll come back for Easter eggs and other things later. That's an Easter egg.
I know the trivia.
Look at you doing your reading. I'm proud of you. They go to the cloister room, and that has not been featured for a long time. The sound of the cloister bell, which rings whenever there is imminent universe-destroying trouble, we hear it quite a lot. But the last time the actual room was seen was in a 4th Doctor story called Logopolis.
Isn't that the one where he dies?
I think it might be the one where he's new. No, Robot's his first one. You're right. It's the one where he dies, yeah. Yeah, it is.
I actually... Logopolis. Yes, it is.
The Master gets Lee to open the Eye of Harmony. Now, he does this by pulling like a staff out, and this beam of light comes up, and apparently only a human eye can open it. Now, this is apparently because Time Lords thought so little of humans that they didn't put the security against them. Makes sense. With the eye open...
Can we just also touch on that eye? Eye is a literal, like, stone eye.
Oh, mate, I was going to talk about this later, but there's a ton of eye and clock imagery. So, like, half of the fucking cuts when you're jumping not to, like, an immediate thing that's happening at the same time. Say there's a bit of time passed. It always jumps to a clock on the wall or an eye. There's, like, all this imagery of round stuff all the time.
You get it? It's about time travel.
And eyes.
Also, for a show that's all about time travel, they barely feature it in this movie.
Except for right at the end. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, saying that, the Doctor, that happens in most of the series as well. He lands somewhere and then does it. Which, again, I've got actually a tidbit about that, and I'll explain it later. You're rushing me, Tim. With the eye open, the Doctor remembers who he is. It kind of floods his memory. And then him and Grace fucking make out. And the world, especially the fans, fucking hated this. Mainly, there's two reasons, really, isn't there? One, the Doctor was never meant to be like a romantic character, and especially in the classic series, he was never intended to be a romantic character. He was always meant to be a bit alien and a bit distant. And he's never, apparently, BBC guidelines said that the Doctor and his companions weren't even supposed to really touch. So, like, you won't, like in the modern series, you see the Doctor grabbing people by the hands and pulling them. No, none of that in the classic series, because they didn't want any intention to be read in it. The other thing is he's like hundreds of years old. You know, creepy.
Yes.
The Master, the eye shows the Master and Chang Li what the Doctor is looking at. No, sorry, shows him what he looks like now and what he used to look like. And Eric Roberts at this point does a British accent. And this is when I realised what was slightly putting me off about Eric Roberts, and it's the American accent. I think what he should have done is, as Bruce had an American accent, then when the Master takes over, the Master in the American accent originally can be like, oh, no, this is... Because he's so pompous anyway. This is horrible. And then start speaking in his kind of posh British accent.
Yeah, I think that would have worked.
Yeah.
Shame didn't do that.
In the projection, for some reason, the Master notices that the Doctor has a human eye structure, meaning that for some reason he is half human. This was never mentioned before, and is never mentioned again.
Yeah. Well, it gets mentioned again in this movie.
Yeah, but outside of this movie. I've got, again, some more info on that for a later section. The projection also shows the Master what the Doctor can see, and that is Grace. When the Doctor realises this, he closes his eyes and is like aimlessly like feeling around, because Grace walks off, because at this point she's going, oh, it's fucking bad, because now he explains the TARDIS, what it stands for, time and relative dimension in space, if anyone's interested. The Master, Skaro, Time Lords, and Grace is like, oh, you're fucking insane. I get it.
Yeah.
The Doctor says with the eye open, the universe will be destroyed. And to fix his TARDIS, which the Master broke, he needs an atomic clock. The Master and Lee hear all this because they were at the eye, and they want to find the Doctor before he finds an atomic clock. Needs beryllium specifically, apparently. Which, if you, again, tidbit from the Blu-ray, is highly toxic.
Yeah.
Lee also points out that he knows Grace. He remembers her from the hospital. Grace runs home to hide from the Doctor, thinking he's mad. She calls an ambulance to get him, but then he demonstrates that the universe is starting to kind of be weird and reality is starting to bend by pushing his way through like a plate glass door that like wobbles and then snaps back after he walks through it. He says this is just the start, and by midnight the world will be pulled inside out. And then she goes, oh, can we make that 2 ambulances, please? Because she thinks she's going fucking mad. The news talks about freak weather. One of the news reporters here is apparently a real news reporter. The other one's an actress. How about that?
Okay. I guess saves money.
They also talk about the atomic clock, which is being launched at midnight, ready for the new year. And this is when the paramedics show up. But oh shit, who is it, Tim? Who's at the door?
It's Chang and the Master.
The doctor asks for a ride
Live on the CW.
The doctor asks for a ride to the Tech Institute, which is where the clock is, and the Master's like, of course. The doctor in the ambulance is all over the fucking place, and Grace indulges him for a bit when he talks about time travel. He's like, yes, of course. And then
yes, of course. And to Bruce, like,
he's fucking crazy. And then they go over a bump in the road, and the Master's glasses fall off, and they reveal his green eyes. And that's when it all goes fucking mental. He spits at Grace, and it burns her skin. She kind of gets her hand up, and it's her wrist. But he was aiming for her face.
He spits acid. Like, that's such a weird thing.
The ambulance gets stuck in traffic as the fight's kind of going on in the back. And the Master attacks the doctor, but he uses a fire extinguisher to defend himself and then escape. Grace and the doctor run into a cop who's got a motorbike, and he draws his gun on them, and then Grace explains he's British. And then the cop's like, oh, okay. And he does like a sleight of hand trick where he offers the officer a jelly baby. Another little fact for you from the Blu-ray: those were real jelly babies from the UK.
I could tell because like the outside, because they're quite like translucent looking,
And the powder as well.
yeah.
And I love Paul McGann here. He's like, I don't know why he does that. The doctor uses the opportunity while the cop, who bites the fucking jelly baby's head off, rips it off with his teeth. Apparently that was done on purpose. The director told him to do it to make him look like more of a dick. And he takes the cop's gun as he's doing that and threatens to shoot himself. The cop's trying to de-escalate. So Grace decides, oh, this isn't going to work. So she takes the gun and threatens to shoot him. Then she shoots the bike to show that she's means business. And eventually he gives up the keys and they ride off on the motorbike. We have a chase scene between the bike and the ambulance. And first of all, Chang Li's like, oh, all this traffic, how are we going to get out? And the Master goes, this is an ambulance. So he puts on the siren. Fucking idiot. They're bombing down the motorway, and Grace really changes her tune here. She's gone from 10 minutes ago thinking he was fucking loony to going, I finally met the right guy, and he's from another planet. It's like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
You're all over the place, Grace. I know it's been a long day, but fucking hell. The doctor and Grace arrive at the institute where the clock is, but the ambulance has beaten them there. They try to get past the clock, the security guard stops them. Eventually they get through with the professor that made the clock. They tried to get through with the professor who made the clock. He says no as well. The doctor does the joke about being half human again for some reason on his mother's side. But as he's doing it, he whispers it into his ear and he picks the pocket of the professor to get his ID. They go and steal the chip from the clock. It's tiny, and this is one of my favourite lines. It's because this little chip that's so important for the TARDIS. It's tiny.
Yeah.
Grace says, what is it they say about size? And the doctor says, yeah, they say that on my planet too. There's a cock joke in Doctor Who. Enjoy.
They finally did it.
This is where we get a weird story about the doctor. A security guard tries to stop them, but he's young. And the doctor's like, you need to answer this question on your midterm. Not the one that looks easier. I'll answer this one because it's actually easier. And it turns out this student, when they walk away, he explains, he invents this machine that detects earthquakes. And he saves thousands of lives, but he needs to pass this exam first. So there you go. There's your time travel. Nod. They spot the Master and Lee, but to escape, they decide they're going to set off the fire alarm and they abseil off the fucking roof using a hose. As they're driving off again, the Doctor refuses to spoil anything about Grace's future. They get to the TARDIS, and for some reason, this is what I said earlier, the Doctor's got a hidden key above the T in the TARDIS.
Yeah, so weird.
P, sorry, for Police Comic Full Box. And yeah, it's so stupid. They get in the TARDIS anyway. After they get in, we get a great clip. They open the door, and there's cops chasing them for some reason. Presumably because they're not cops on a stolen motorbike. And he drives into the TARDIS and back out, because Grace is expecting a crash, and obviously there isn't one.
Yeah.
They did do this later again, motorbike driving in with Clara. Again, we'll get there. The cloister bell was ringing because the TARDIS is
We've actually already gone there in the mainline series.
We have, yes. It's in the 50th anniversary, which We will do it again when we get there, but for now, if you want to go listen to that one, you can listen to that. The Doctor attaches the beryllium clock and the eye closes. Oh, sorry, the beryllium chip and the eye closes. He uses the TARDIS to look into the future, which is quite a cool effect they do. They kind of project up into the ceiling of the TARDIS, and the Doctor realizes it's too late, and the eye was open for too long, and the Earth's still going to be destroyed. Now, this is where the film falls down in terms of its logic for the rest of the series. Grace says they could use the TARDIS to go back in time to before the eye was open and stop it happening. Now, that sounds logical, except the series has always avoided this and said the Doctor can't do that because once he lands, he's established in events, and there'll be a thing called the Blinovich limitation effect if he tries, which just fucks with things. Like, we've seen it with Doctors, different incarnations of Doctors touching each other and things happen. We've seen it in an episode that we'll cover fairly soon called Father's Day. Yeah, it just doesn't work. Some Time Lords can bypass it if you build a paradox machine. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But this is actually explained in an old episode called The Three Doctors.
Yeah.
Which, as you could probably guess, stars Doctors 1, 2, and 3, so it's very old. From the 70s. The Doctor makes a plan to jumpstart the TARDIS, but Grace's skin starts to change from where she got spat on by the Master. Out of nowhere, she knocks the Doctor clean fucking out, and now she has these, like, all black eyes, no white, no pupils, and she is under the Master's control.
Dun, dun, dun.
Lee and Grace take the Doctor, and he's like strapped to a gurney, and they take him to the Eye of Harmony, and the Master appears in fucking full-on Time Lord robes. We get a bit more Jesus imagery here. Grace puts... They even call it this. Apparently, the prop was called the Crown of Nails. A bit like the Crown of Thorns from Jesusness. And they put it on the Doctor's head, and then they put the eye openers on him, holding his eyes open like like in a Clockwork Orange. The Doctor talks Lee around, and he realizes that he's been used by the Master. There was supposed to be a spectacular fight between Lee and the Master, but I'm not a fan of Eric Roberts, and I'll tell you why at the end. But this is one of the reasons. He got a leaf in his eye and couldn't do it.
A leaf?
Yeah. So, although the Master does something quite Masterish, which is where he comes over and just snaps Lee's neck. But originally there was supposed to be a big old fight. Now, the Master wins, but Lee's a fucking street rat, like hood boy. He's going to put up a fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish we got that fight. The Master now needs a new set of human eyes to open the eye. Grace could do it, except she's got the black eyes, so he needs to get the poison out of her, which he sucks out of her via a kiss. Bit aggressive, bit rapey.
Yeah.
This is the third time to this point the Master has tried to give himself a new set of regenerations. He's done it using the Eye of Harmony before as well. There's episodes called The Deadly Assassin and Keeper of the Traken, which are old ones again. He does later succeed in this, which we will get to when we get to.
Oh, yes, he does.
The transfer starts, and it locks the Doctor and the Master in place. The machine that transfers the body so the Master can steal the Doctor's body to steal his regenerations. We probably didn't cover that enough. That's what the Master wants to do, sorry. He's got a human body, but the human body is falling apart. I think I kind of whisked past it. I mentioned it once. He wants the Doctor's body. So at this point, the Doctor he's on his body 8 out of 13. He's got 5 more lives after the current one. Yeah. Again, I've got more about that at the end. But yes, that's what the Master's trying to do. He's trying to steal the Doctor's body so he can have a Time Lord body. They get locked into place, and then the Doctor reminds the Grace of the plan to jumpstart the TARDIS. As the transfer begins, the TARDIS starts to go haywire. Grace manages to jumpstart it by connecting random wires. Bang on midnight. And then they go into temporal orbit, whatever that means. Grace runs back and stands in the beam that connects the Doctor and the Master, stops the transfer. This frees the Master, who then throws her off the balcony and kills her. Now, luckily, before that happened, Grace had managed to undo the Doctor's hand from the thing that was restraining him, and they have a bit of an actual physical fight, which they don't normally do.
No.
The Master quotes Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy during this fight. He says, "Life is wasted on the living," which is a Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy quote. And at this point, obviously, in the classic era, Douglas Adams had written for Doctor Who.
Oh, yes, he had, yeah.
The Doctor sidesteps and blinds the Master using the light from the Eye of Harmony, which is apparently, according to the thing, later retconned to be Artron energy, which is what runs the TARDIS. The Master
Yes,
gets caught in
okay.
the eye, and the Doctor offers in some help, and he says, no! And he gets sucked into the eye, and it kills him. The Doctor then uses the TARDIS to do exactly what he's not supposed to do, which is time travel back. And the TARDIS actually gets filled with what looks like regeneration energy from the newer series, the gold light, and it actually goes into Grace and Chang Li. So maybe that was like the initial spark for the gold light for regeneration. The Doctor sets the TARDIS
Potentially, that would make sense.
Yeah. The Doctor sets the TARDIS to December 31st. They get going. The world celebrates the new year. Lee gives the Doctor back his things, including the bag of gold dust, but the Doctor says, no, you keep it. And also, don't be in San Francisco next Christmas. Whatever that means. The Doctor asks Grace to come with him. She refuses, but they have another little smoochy, Tim.
A little smooch.
And the Doctor flies off again in the TARDIS. He picks up, what I like is he picks up the Time Machine, the book, where he left off as the Seventh Doctor, and just continues reading.
Yeah, I like that touch because like you still have the memories of reading it beforehand.
Yeah. Now, I'm aware I said we wouldn't do point for point cover, and I just did a lot, right? This is probably the longest single narrative we'll cover in anything. Threw a lot at you there, everyone, but we did it. That's the whole plot line for this movie.
Everything ends. As always said. But everything begins again too. And that was happy.
So, Tim, that is a quick-ish, as quick as we can, without missing any kind of story version of the Doctor Who movie. What were your favourite moments? What were your favourite quotes? You got any least favourite moments?
So I'll go through the favourite moments first. Liked the regeneration, especially with the coroner watching Frankenstein. I think that's like a nice little...
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it's just a nice like visual metaphor while going on. As I said, I was like, I'm 50-50 on this TARDIS design. Well, I think it's like really like iconic. It stands out amongst the rest. It feels like the best I can describe it is it's American. Like, it's a British person traveling through space and time. What does his ship look like?
So that's what I was going to say. It's not American necessarily. It's an American version of what they think British people have. It looks like Giles's library in Buffy.
But that being said, I like the stuff, like the visual Eye of Harmony, everything like that. Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor is great, and for the longest time, it was a shame that was, up until like 2013, his only like visual appearance, because I think he just does the role so well.
I agree. I'm with you on all of those points. To add another specific favourite moment, I love the scene with the cop where they hold him up and steal his bike.
Oh yeah, now would you stand aside before I shoot myself?
Yeah, it establishes them as a team. Also, like their roguishness, like, fuck this cop, we need to save the world.
The stuff that I didn't like, the obviously romantic angle between Grace and the Doctor is really stupid. Feels very like TV, like American TV drama type of thing. Especially like this is the first time it's been done. It's been done by an American show, clearly just for American audiences. And I said it at the start. I just don't like Chang as a character. I think he's written to be the biggest idiot on the planet, and I think a simple writing change of him being under the Master's control the entire time and breaking free would have made more sense, because you have the Master being the most evil man on the planet. Literally one of the first things he says to Chang is, if you help me, you get to live. And he goes, this is a man I can trust.
Yeah, it's said by everybody who produced it, there was a few things that have been dropped out that make the story more cohesive, but they had to run to a time.
Yeah, because as you said, like they have him be hypnotized at first, and then he releases him from that, and then it's just like him going, you can trust me, even though I just hypnotized you against your will. no, the Doctor's the bad guy. No, believe me. It's like, it's all that. It's like, no, I'd rather you just have him be hypnotized the entire time. I think that would have been a stronger narrative.
No, I'm with you. I didn't generally like Eric Roberts as the Master. I don't think he hits it quite right. I think he's like, the Master's camp, the Master's cheesy, the Master has an eccentric side to him. The Master, like, in all incarnations apart from this one, likes children's TV.
Yeah.
Like, he's a bit weird. Like, as well as being evil, he's just an oddball. And this version of the Master is just too cool for school, isn't he?
I did find, like, towards the end, like, once he puts on the Gallifreyan robes, he becomes quite camp.
That's about the only time he really embodies what I think the Master's meant to be like. And I don't even think that's his portrayal, because he still comes in being all grand and stuff, as opposed to kind of not realising, like, the Master should be, like, looking like an idiot like that without realising he looks like an idiot.
The Master before him wasn't really... He was always, like, taking himself too seriously, I think, and the joke was he always looked like an idiot. And I think with this Master, especially in that scene, that's kind of, like, reminiscent of classic Master.
Yeah, but, like, even in, like, the Five Doctors, the Master, there's a trap in a tomb, and he basically plays hopscotch to get across it, and he looks like a kid playing hopscotch. And I feel like the Master needs that kind of thing.
That's true. I do think this is also an issue of it just being, you know, American.
Yeah.
And they go, well, we need our villains to look cool with their slick backed hair.
Did you have any, like, favourite quotes, Timothy?
Well, obviously, now would you sign aside before I shoot myself?
That is that's on my list as well.
There's the bit where Grace is talking to Pete, the coroner, and goes, hey, Pete, stop by psychiatric and pick up some more mind-altering drugs. He goes, okay, sure.
Now, I'm going to talk about Pete the coroner in a little bit. I didn't talk about him in the story because actually he doesn't really have... So, again, we're trying not to hit every single fucking frame of the film, right, like we used to. And he technically doesn't really have anything integral to the storyline.
No.
But he has a couple of good moments, which I'll discuss in a bit. But yeah, I like Pete as well.
Yeah, Pete was a great character.
My favourite, and I mentioned it there at the end, life is wasted on the living, quoting Douglas Adams.
Yeah, but that's because you're the hitchhiker nerd, you know?
You say that, I've only read the first two, but I just... Plus, it's a good line. Like, that's something that the Master would say.
Absolutely.
Irrespective of whether it was a quote by Douglas Adams.
That's who I am. The Time Lord Victorious.
Before I go, I just want to tell you, you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I.
Right, Tim. Now, did the Doctor live up to what he's supposed to be? Is he Time Lord Victorious? Or is he Time Lord Fantastic? Because the Time Lord Victorious, although it sounds good, is when he's being a right shitter. No, the Doctor gives himself a little motto, which is never be cruel or cowardly. So were they heroic? Were they warm and fuzzy, or were they very alien-like and cold?
I mean, he was very warm and fuzzy. I think even when, like, he's being alien and weird, he's still trying to be sympathetic to people, especially to Grace. And I mean, even down to the very end when the Master has to try and steal his lives, he tries to save him. I think, yeah, he's pretty much is Time Lord Fantastic this entire movie.
He goes from, like, confused about who he is, and then he turns into an excited puppy dog. It's beautiful.
He has golden retriever energy.
He has full on golden retriever energy, doesn't he? The bit where the shoes fit, that bit was the bit where he goes, "Oh, look at him, he's a puppy dog."
Yeah.
Like you said, he forgives Chang Li, lets him keep the gold. I definitely am. I'm coming down on this version of the Doctor, the Eighth Doctor. From the bits I've seen, he's actually quite human, which is ironic because apparently he's half human. And because some of the incarnations, like later, like ones at 9 and 11 and 12, are quite alien. But this one, he's quite human. Yeah, I just think he portrays it very well. Although in later things that I've seen and heard of the Eighth Doctor, he's quite quite quick as well, quite quick-witted and a bit sarcastic, which we don't massively get to see here.
Unfortunately, you do get some of it in Night of the Doctor.
Yeah, you get some of that sarcasm.
This episode of Timey Wimey Rewind is brought to you by Professor Wag's Atomic Clocks. Do you need a reliable timepiece or to simply fix your time travel vehicle? Look no further than Professor Wag's Atomic Clocks.
Now, what effects did this have on the Whoniverse? And then also, like, what did it mean for the Doctor Who playing out in the real world? So I
we
think
had a brand new Doctor.
yeah, it brought Doctor Who back to the forefront, right? Just for a little while.
For a brief moment.
Yeah. And it also made the 8th Doctor the longest running Doctor of all time. I need to explain that because he had one movie, that's it. So, up to this point, the longest active Doctor in any media was the 4th Doctor. But because of this, Paul McGann's 8th Doctor, from 96 through to 2005, became the longest running active Doctor because they did loads of books, loads of audio adventures, and loads of comic books. So actually, despite the fact he's only had like 3 TV appearances from now till that's it, he's the most prolific in terms of content.
Yeah.
And I think he still produces the most amount of Big Finish audio dramas. He does more than anyone else.
Consistently doing them, yeah.
They're still going. This was intended as an American-produced like backdoor pilot to make a TV series in America. And it was meant to come back and collect grace and everything. And it was a massive ratings achievement in the UK. It did 9.1 million, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Considering you have to remember, like, that doesn't, maybe in America that doesn't sound a lot, but there's, now there's 75 million people in the UK.
Yeah.
Back then, in the mid-90s, it was probably 65. That's a high percentage of people watching this. It's the best Doctor Who ratings since an episode called Time Flight in 1982, which I think was a 5th Doctor one. But it flopped in America.
Yeah.
So it just didn't get picked up again. It was obviously unsuccessful in relaunching the franchise, but eventually we got confirmation that it was canonical. We didn't get this really until The Next Doctor, which was a David Tennant episode where we see images of all the past Doctors, and it includes the 8th Doctor. The next time we see the 8th Doctor on TV, like you said, is The Night of the Doctor.
That wasn't even on TV. That was like a digital special.
Yeah, it's a 6-minute kind of mini episode about the 8th Doctor regenerating into the War Doctor, played by John Hurt. And everyone thought, obviously, that he would regenerate into Christopher Eccleston, but the War Doctor was put in place as another kind of secret incarnation.
Do you know, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before.
Tim, who was your favourite tertiary character? I've called this section Nobody Important because the Doctor famously once said, in 900 years of time and space travel, I've never met anybody who wasn't important. And I think we've spoken about him already, but if I had to pick one, so I think if you think about a movie, you'll probably find the same thing about first episodes of New Doctors or New Companions, is that there's such heavy focus on those characters, and actually you don't get many kind of tertiary characters. But I think there is one in here, and there's two kind of that stand out, but one is the better one. There's the cop, who's an arsehole, and then there's Pete, like you said.
Yeah, I think you can tell it's obviously Pete. I put Pete.
Yeah, so Pete the Porter thinks he's gone mad when he sees the 8th Doctor knock through the thing, and then the body's disappeared. He thinks he's gone insane, and like you said, Grace, what does Grace say to him?
Go to psychiatric and get some more mind-altering drugs.
Yeah, it's a little part, and I think this
we haven't even said who he's played by.
Oh, go ahead.
It's Will Sasso.
What's Will Sasso in?
Bret Hart's greatest opponent in WCW.
Is that who he was? You know what? I didn't recognise him. I knew he was a voice actor, mostly.
He's also in the Three Stooges movie that came out in 2012, and for promotion, they did a tie-in with WWE where he played Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah, as the Stooge character, right? Yeah.
Tell me the whole plan!
One day that'll work.
Tim, What did you think of the Master's plan? What would you rate this plan out of 10? Come on. Did it make sense? Did he succeed? Did he nearly succeed? They never succeed, but did he nearly succeed?
So I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. What was your downfall of the plan?
It only got so far because Chang was an idiot.
Was the Master clever in realizing that Chan was an idiot and using him though?
He was, but if he didn't get anyone, if he targeted someone that wasn't as stupid as Chang, because also that was luck. It wasn't like he got Chang to go to the TARDIS. Chang just already was going there.
If Chang was smart, he would have just killed him.
Yeah, and then the plan probably would have been more successful because he didn't have someone who was easy to just break from that. Have that realization and go, oh yeah, I'm being manipulated.
I disagree with you. I think the plan was good.
Someone who was fundamentally evil. No, I'm saying the plan was good. I'm saying having Chang as your sidekick was the downfall.
No, yeah, fair enough. Now I've gone high into this, and let me explain why. I've given him 9 out of 10. Do you know why? Because he was seconds from succeeding.
Yeah, but that's because he literally just had to improvise on the fly. Go, oh yeah, Grace, bang.
Yeah, that's brilliant. He's a genius.
No, because my thing is, he wouldn't have gone to that stage if it wasn't for Chang.
Yeah.
Chang
okay.
was such a wild card.
No, I disagree. I think he nearly stole the Doctor's life, blew up the world, and left in the TARDIS. He was close.
Right then, I'll be off. Unless, I don't know, you could come with me. He's not invited.
What happens to the characters that get left behind? So, the Doctor's always leaving people behind. He makes new friends, temporary friends, and they always get left behind. I've got some notes here, mostly about Grace, because she's the kind of one who really gets left behind. She plays the main role of a companion, but doesn't go with the Doctor. So, in February 2000, there is a future character called Adam Mitchell, who the Doctor kind of does not like. He, in some of the comic book series, kidnaps Grace.
Is this the one for the 50th anniversary where he's the big main villain?
Yes. And Grace is later saved by multiple incarnations of the Doctor. She also studied the residue left behind by the Master and worked on it with MI6 to see if they could create a human Time Lord hybrid capable of regeneration. She survives the Cyberman invasion of Earth from later on, from Tennant's era. She works with UNIT, and we see that in the 50th anniversary. They're the Doctor. She is pictured on the board.
Awesome. But if I recall, they're not legally allowed to use her as a character in Big Finish or the TV show because of a licensing.
Now, whether they got special permission or whether the fact it doesn't count because it's a still in the background, I don't know. But she's there. There is a picture of her on that board.
No, and that's so they're allowed to a reference, but they're not they can never bring her back as an actual character kind of thing.
No, they can't. No, you are correct. She attended Sarah Jane's funeral.
Oh.
Chang Li changes his ways and goes to work for a Chinese-American space project, apparently. It says he's going to help the humans leave the solar system. Sure you are, Chang Li. Sure you are. Eric Roberts actually comes back to reprise this version of the Master who somehow escapes in an episode for Big Finish called Day of the Master. Yes. Is that what it is? I don't know. But that was released in 2019, so maybe not.
No, but that's my canon.
Well, we'd have to listen to Day of the Master, the Big Finish one, to see what happens. Right. On to one of my favourites, Tim. Easter eggs.
What is this? Who is he?
An Easter egg.
So I skipped over these again to not be just yammering at you. We could discuss these Easter eggs because they're little nice tidbits. When the Doctor's rifling through the lockers at the hospital to find some clothes, do you notice what he finds?
The Fourth Doctor's scarf.
He does. Discussed in our very last episode, Space Jam. He has a moment with the Fourth Doctor's scarf. He kind of holds onto it and looks at it before deciding, no, I don't want it. When the Doctor first sees his new face, it is reflected in 7 mirrors.
7 lives beforehand.
Exactly. Now, the director denies this, but it's a fucking lovely unintentional Easter egg. The life is wasted on the living is obviously a Guardian of the Galaxy line. Heels.
Hitchhikers.
Sorry, yeah. Hitchhiker's Guardians of the Galaxy. Thank you. In the series, he wrote some of Tom Baker's episodes, Douglas Adams. So there's a nice little callback to him. The Eighth Doctor obviously carries around a small paper bag filled with jelly babies, which is a reference to the Fourth Doctor mainly, but also the Second Doctor, who apparently carried them around. Yeah. For series 21 and 26 of the original run of Doctor Who, the TARDIS key was a simple Yale key, like a front door key.
Yeah.
But the key used in the film was actually used by John Pertwee's Doctor. And was also used by Tom Baker's for a small portion of his. That's kind of a weird reference back to something that wasn't used massively through the series. But it's also the first time with the way they flick the Yale lock out of the way and put the slot in. That's the first time they've actually shown that. So you were shown the key back in the original series, but never shown how it works. The gold dust, Tim, you can come on. You said you knew this reference.
Is it because the gold dust is what is used to kill Cybermen?
Yes. Classic Doctor Who villain, the Cybermen, are allergic to dust.
They're allergic to gold, and so he made it a dust to...
That's what I meant. I'm tired, Tim. It's been a long record already. There's been technical issues. We'll try to hide those, but yes, they are allergic to gold. And like you said, the dust can be used to then throw. The woman who plays Bruce's wife, we didn't really talk about her. She gets killed. It's not a big story point. But that is actually Eric Roberts' real wife, Eliza.
Oh.
There's loads of references to Rassilon, who is like king of the Time Lords, essentially. Belland.
Yes.
All over the cloister room, there's carvings of him. There's carvings of his logo. They're everywhere. In the Doctor's toolbox as well that we see in the console room, there's random things that he used once off in the series. So there's like kind of 6 or 7 tools that were never constant things, but they were used by the Doctor at certain points. So that's quite a nice little touch, I think. And that's it for Easter eggs.
There have always been rumours, stories passed from traveller to traveller, mutterings about hidden streets.
The rumours about the episode. So, Doctor Who, often the fans pick up on small little tidbits that they then blow out of proportion, which is mostly what we're going to discuss. But actually, because there's not a lot of that, because this is 96, there are things that were considered I've got here for
I got
the script. Go on then.
So this is more of a casting choice, and I only say this because I've never been able to find concrete proof of this.
Okay.
And Jim Carrey was going to be casted as the Eighth Doctor, but he turned it down as he felt it should be a British actor.
Yeah, see, I read that too. Now, I don't love my least favourite bits of trivia on IMDb are, this person was considered for the role, and this person was considered for the role, and I've not got any of that unless it's really intriguing. And that one is intriguing.
I found that one regurgitated from a What Culture video a few years ago, and that's why it stuck with me. But I did research it, and I could not find concrete information on that.
No, I've looked as well. I couldn't see anything.
And also, I believe Jim Carrey would have been way too expensive at the time, so I don't think they would have ever considered that.
Although, what I would say is, Jim Carrey as the Master,
would have been much better, yeah.
There was a possibility of the Doctor's father appearing and being called Ulysses. And then the Master was also going to be revealed to be his half-brother.
Of course.
Which is referenced by David Tennant's Doctor much later. The half-human thing was basically retconned. It's barely mentioned in the novelization, which we'll talk about in a minute. Or it's like briefly mentioned as if it's a joke.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of explanations that are given for this. One is that his memories are still mixed up post-regeneration. One is actually from a comic book. The Eighth Doctor says he uses a broken chameleon arch to trick the Master and then also gain access to the eye, because his half-human eye would have been able to access it. The fan theory goes, because that's actually in a comic book, the Eighth Doctor says it, that it was actually the Seventh Doctor who did it to himself with the chameleon arch, which could turn a Time Lord into a human. And he made himself a little bit human so that he could control the Eye of Harmony, because he thought that might be the Master's plan to try and get some new regenerations. I don't know. It's all very convoluted.
I mean, that just sounds like retconning.
Well, yeah, that's kind of fan retconning, but in the comic book, the Eighth Doctor says he used a broken chameleon arch to kind of make himself partially human to trick the Master. Yeah. I've got a section here called spoilers, which we can't really go into because this didn't lead to a series, so they didn't set anything up.
No.
No.
Except,
so like this section...
well, because technically they did, obviously unintentionally, but obviously with the fob watch being a chameleon arch, because he was obsessing over that throughout the entire movie. The camera kept pointing to it.
So Chang Li kept turning it over in his hands, didn't he, and looking at it. And it could be because it's gold, but it also could be with a bit of simple head canon retconning. It could be because some of the Doctor's consciousness is residing in it.
Yeah.
Notes from a lot of things. The Doctor Who confidentials, which we won't get to yet. Obviously, they start with the Ninth Doctor, from A Writer's Tale, from the trivia sections, from commentary. But I've also got this, Tim. This is my ultimate guide to monsters from Doctor Who.
I used to have that. I used to have that exact book. I don't have it anymore.
It was gifted to me as a secret Santa.
I don't have mine anymore because I'm a dumb child and got rid of it.
Now, I've got my bookmark. We're going to go to a little breakdown of the Master and a little breakdown of this version of the Master specifically. Ed Gamble has been keeping my page, where he says, even the worst burps are the best. That's from Off Menu, by the way, if you want to know. So, the book says, the Master is a renegade Time Lord who has been the Doctor's rival and enemy for many years. Once they were friends, they were even at school together. In fact, the last two Time Lords, have a lot in common. Both left the home planet of Gallifrey, though while the Doctor wanted to explore the universe, the Master wanted to rule it. A psychopathic megalomaniac, the Master craves power and has no regard at all for lives other than his own. And that's it, because it goes on to the last great time war after that, and we'll discuss that another time. And just there's a little point in my book about this version of the Master, and it just says that the Doctor is summoned to collect the Master's remains, who has been executed by the Daleks, but the Master is not dead, and he steals the human body in San Francisco at the end of the millennium. So there's a nice note about that version. And what's funny is obviously it's like there's more notes on Roger Delgado and but the big image is actually Eric Roberts. There you go. There is the ultimate monster guide from Doctor Who. A little bit about the Master and this particular version.
Nice.
So, you said you've got me some trivia. Go on, shoot.
So apparently, the BBC originally wanted Tom Baker to be the Doctor at the opening sequence, as that's the version that American audiences would have been the most familiar with.
Yes, but it wouldn't have made any fucking sense.
It wouldn't have made sense that it was shot down immediately.
Kind of later, there is more sense with that, with like diverging timelines, but not this at this point.
No, so apparently Jeffrey Sachs was basically like, no, we want to give Sylvester McCoy his send-off. So the compromise for that was for Sylvester McCoy to only have 13 lines.
Yeah, he's not in it for very long at all.
No, and he barely says a word.
The UK television broadcast of this was dedicated to John Pertwee.
Yeah, who had died a couple of weeks prior?
Prior to it going out, yeah. A week earlier, in fact, is what my note says. As we said earlier, it was all shot in Vancouver, which is why for San Francisco it looks suspiciously flat. I've got this whole thing about fucking Tom Baker now that I could just skip over. Hang on, because you just said that. It's the first time we've seen the sonic screwdriver since 1982 as well. When Grace is examining him at the flat, the original line in the script was, I have 12 lives. But obviously he doesn't. He has 12 regenerations. He's got 13 lives. This was overdubbed quite late before broadcast by Paul McGann, which is why it's if you go back and watch it, the mouth is mildly off. Here we go. Due to licensing issues, Grace Holloway is not allowed to appear in Big Finish productions. She's allowed, I think, so she's I think she's basically allowed to appear in books and stuff, just not Big Finish. So this will interest you. As early as the 80s, the Disney wanted to buy the rights to Doctor Who. They wanted to attach Steven Spielberg to direct it. But Spielberg lost interest when they wouldn't give him the budget they wanted. Imagine what could have been.
I don't know why you want to give Spielberg, especially 90s Spielberg, the budget he wants.
No, who knows? At the time, we said this before, there was a massive controversy about Grace and the Doctor kissing. And he's never been seen as a romantic character before until Russell T Davies came along.
Does they get all the romance?
The BBC didn't actually own the rights to the theme song. They had to buy them back from Warner, who they had sold them to.
For fuck's sake.
And that's it for my kind of trivia notes. And we got a section that won't be applicable for everything here, but it is applicable here. It's called On Target. Now, Target novels have done versions of a lot of the episodes and this film that have new details. So we're going to quickly go over what some of those new details are. There aren't as many changes in this one as there are in other ones, but there are some. We get it's written by Gary Russell, by the way, not who wrote the original. We get a prologue about how the 8th Doctor became the War Doctor. We learn a little about the 7th Doctor's friend Ace, how she started a charity. We learn that Chang Li had a brother who got shot before this, and that his parents owned a local shop. Chang Li also sees in the Eye of Harmony all of the incarnations of the Doctor up to the 8th one, not just 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Which was apparently the original plan in the script, but they couldn't get permission. The Master's human body was originally supposed to degrade very slowly throughout the film, but the plan got abandoned when Eric Roberts found the makeup a bit uncomfortable. So there's only one scene of that remains where he pulls off a fingernail. But it happens in the book. He gets worse and worse, and by the end his body's basically rotting. The kiss between the Doctor and Grace is played out more awkwardly.
Yeah.
So I think the Doctor is embarrassed by it and apologises for getting carried away.
Yeah, because he backs away, says, "I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me."
Yes, and then Grace asks to kiss him again, and he says, "There's no time."
Yeah.
The Master makes no mention of the Doctor being half human like he does in Thingy, and the Doctor still does mention it to Joseph Wagg, but it feels like tongue in cheek, and in fact Grace, in her, from her perspective, thinks it's a joke.
Well, because in the book, they also everyone laughs about it too. Because in the movie, Wag kind of awkwardly shuffles away, but in the book, everyone's laughing, as if it's some hilarious joke.
Yes, exactly, like we all think it is. Instead of the Master's glasses just falling off in the ambulance over Bond, the Doctor whips them off. Grace asks the Doctor if he's married, and he answers back awkwardly, but says he's got a granddaughter, and that he should go back and check if he's got any great-grandchildren. After the Doctor dematerializes, we get more about Grace wondering if she should have stayed with him. The 7th Doctor's hat plays more of a role in the book, so he does collect it but puts it in his pocket, the 8th Doctor, and it's every time he touches it, it kind of triggers some memories. Now, how did you take this in? Did you read it? Because I listened to the audiobook.
I got it on Kindle and I read it.
Okay. So something interesting for you. Paul McGann is from Liverpool. He is a Scouser. His natural accent is a bit Scouse. He's not silly heavy, but it's Scouse. Now, his version of the Doctor, however, is not Scouse. He puts on a London estuary accent to do it. In the same way David Tennant puts on a London estuary accent despite the fact he has a Scottish accent. For some reason, the person who's narrating the audiobook reads the Doctor as Scouse.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's brilliant. It's made explicit that the Eye of Harmony is connected to... So, in the original series, the Eye of Harmony was just on Gallifrey, and then it's an element they took for the film. Now it's made explicit that this is kind of a link to the main Eye of Harmony. It's just a smaller version, essentially.
Yeah.
They do use the term in the book, coughing up the readies, which is not good because that's a British phrase and it's an American saying. So readies is a nickname for £50 notes because they're red.
Yeah.
The guy who runs the hospital, because obviously in America it's all private healthcare, trying to get money out of people, he says about coughing up the readies. I was like, well, you're American, so that doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, exactly.
we learn a little bit about Bruce's life before the Master. He was once divorced, but he's now very happily married. There's a whole filler subplot about that security guard that the Doctor tells to answer a different exam question. I'm not going to go into it. He fancies a girl. The girl is the daughter of Professor Wag. That's it.
Yeah. And they kiss.
Yes. There is more emphasis put on the gold fob watch, as you said. Maybe alluding to the comedian arc. And when midnight strikes, everything, for a brief moment before they succeed, everything ceases to exist, which kind of isn't a thing in the book, in the movie. And then it all kind of gets rewind. And it's kind of a moment that never was exists, and then it all gets rewound. And that's it. That is the differences between the book and the movie.
There's one more.
Go on.
Instead of Grace and Chang Li getting killed and then being brought back to life, they are just rendered unconscious in the book.
Yeah, to make the time travel, mean less, I suppose, to get away from that Limovich limitation.
Now those are all the changes.
We're all capable of the most incredible change. We can evolve while still staying true to who we are.
Tim, what would you change, if anything, about this episode of Doctor Who? This film?
I've said it multiple times. Have Chang Li just be able to hypnosis the entire time.
Yeah, I wish it would have led to a Paul McGann series of some description.
I mean, obviously, grand was scope, but I'm talking about within the context of the film itself, narratively, I think that's just a big change.
I already mentioned this earlier. I wish the Master was just less American. Nothing against it being American, but I feel like the Master as a character, we even see it when John Sim plays the Master. He looks down on Americans because he's snooty, and he shouldn't do. He shouldn't look down on Americans. There's no reason for him to look down on Americans, but that's the Master.
Yeah.
Even if I change, it feels like dying. Everything I am dies. Some new man goes sauntering away.
What other Doctor would you like to have seen in this movie? If you'd have seen another incarnation of the Doctor?
Any except Hartnell and Capaldi. Just because I think all other Doctors have an element of warmth to them. Those two do not. And so I don't think in that aspect, you need a warm Doctor for this story to narratively work, especially like post-regeneration.
So no, I'm not taking this as that Doctor is going to be doing this exact dialogue and this exact thing. I'm saying you put that Doctor in this thing, and obviously things will change. That's my thing in this. And my thing is,
but like how would that specific Doctor handle it?
Yeah, like how would it play out if one of the more alien, darker versions, like 9 or 12, did it? Because there would be no romantic nonsense. Like I think any of the other Doctors might be too similar, apart from maybe 13.
I kind of want John Pertwee in it, just so then for the final fight he's actually doing kung fu.
Venetian Aikido, I think he calls it.
Yes, exactly.
I think one of the darker, grittier versions of the Doctor, the 9th or the 12th. So either Christopher Eccleston or Peter Capaldi.
I always actually like to see Fugitive Doctor.
You throw that out there, so you say I remember the Fugitive Doctor.
I do remember the Fugitive Doctor, and
I want Toby Jones. I want the Dream Lord.
I want Suave Doctor from the Red Nose Day special, played by Hugh Grant.
He'll be charmingly befuddled. So, here's a thing that I think we should talk about, Tim. One of the reasons we started Cult Classic Society was that we thought we might have differing opinions on things. You know, there's a 10-year age gap, and I am a straight white man. You are... Well, you could say what you are. I don't want to...
A pansexual, non-binary.
Yeah, you're one of them. And and we thought it might give us a different opinion or take on things. It turns out it isn't. We're just fucking big nerds. But with the latest incarnation of the Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, and the 14th Doctor, played by David Tennant, one of the two versions, presenting queer tendencies, and that upsetting a lot of people, we find that very funny.
Yes.
So, we want to discuss kind of any queer reading that comes out of any episode or film of the Doctor Who.
Honey, I'm here for fun.
Now, there isn't a lot in here, but there is a couple of little things that I find quite funny. Obviously, we had the kiss with Grace. Now, it's rarely mentioned, but the Doctor's kind of asexual before this point. But what is really funny is, I said it in the thing, the Master is clearly a fucking leather daddy.
Yeah, I just thought he's just so camp in this, especially towards the end with the whole like I always dress for the occasion. It's very it's that fucking like 50s movie that Tony Storm was referencing the entire time.
Oh yeah, I don't know the movie, but yeah, I know the kind of thing you mean.
Yeah, it's
very
that
flamboyant,
kind of
very
yeah. Like I'm ready for my close up kind of thing.
Is there any other things you realised that I didn't?
Well, there's a bit. So the bit where the master's choking out the doctor, he literally goes, "You are my life," which obviously he's meaning "You are my life force," but considering like how their relationship develops in New Who, no, I think that's very queer reading in retrospect.
Nice. Glad. I hope anyone who dislikes that element of modern Doctor Who and is listening turns off now and never comes back. Thank you. Right, Tim, we've got a silly thing to do before we get on to our final ratings. I said to you, I want to have a little dialogue challenge, a little monologue challenge. We'll pick a nice sentence, a nice paragraph from the movie, and we could each pick how we do it. Hey, if someone's listening and they want to join in, maybe we'll even put it on socials what we're going to do for the next one. So, Tim, the thing we're going to do is the voiceover from the beginning, done by Paul McGann. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I haven't thought how I'm going to do this. I'm probably going to do it very seriously.
Oh, I'm not. Go on.
Wait, let me just look deadpan into the camera.
Don't do that. That's going to be a bastard to edit.
Yeah, severe eye contact.
Oh, he's going to do ASMR, Doctor. Oh no. Oh.
It was on the planet Skara that my old enemy, the Master, was finally put on trial. They say he listened calmly as his list of crimes was read and sentence passed. Then he made his last and I thought somewhat curious request. He demanded that I, the Doctor, a rival Time Lord, should take his remains back to our own planet, Gallifrey. It was a request they should never have granted.
Now Captain Boring has done his version. I present to you now. I gave you a very important fact about the audiobook of this. What did I say?
No. No, I know where you're going with this.
For some reason, they play Paul McGann with a Scouse accent. A very slight one, but I'm not going to do a very slight Scouse accent. I'm going to go for it. So, Jimmy Carr says, to get into the Scouse accent, you got to say, chicken and a can of Coke. Come on, say it with me, Tim. Say, chicken and a can of Coke.
Chicken and a can of Coke?
Not bad. Not good, though. God, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Right. So, let's do this. Hey! It was on the planet Skaro that my old enemy, the Master, finally got put on trial. They say he listened calmly as his list of evil crimes was read and the sentence passed. I need to get back into it. Hang on. Chicken and a can of Coke. Then he made his last and somewhat curious request that me, the Doctor, a rival Time Lord, should take his remains back to our home planet, Gallifrey. It was a request they should have denied. Although, they should never have granted. Sorry, I got it wrong, but I think my effort is worth noting.
Fuck's sake.
So the vote on Spotify, if you're listeners there, you could put polls, and the poll will be who did a better version, and I think you'll find it was me.
At least I wasn't flubbing my lines, Bobby.
Hey, sometimes effort is better than accuracy. Ask Blink-182. What is your rating for this? Out of 10, Timothy.
Out of 10? I give it a solid 7.
Me too. Well, why'd you give it a 7?
It's good, especially for the time and for being a TV movie. I just think it tried to cater too much to Americans, I find. Not really much in terms of time travel. I think obviously that would have been leaned into more. So it being not really modern day, but just out of modern day, like by a couple of years, it's still very just like being, it feels as though like, maybe like you could have just had this be like a random TV show, not be Doctor Who, but having Paul McGann as such an incredible Doctor, like on screen, and as we said, like the plan with the Master, like even though I do think Chang was not a good part of it, their interactions with each other was just so good, and even Grace, like romantic stuff aside, their chemistry together on screen was really good, and it would have been something that would have been really cool to see develop if they actually did get picked up for a season.
Agreed. So just to jump back at you, I had one more note about Eric Roberts as the Master. The other thing he didn't like was apparently he had a costume like Roger Delgado's, and he said it was uncomfortable, which is why we got the Leather Daddy look in the end. So there you go. Another reason that it maybe should have been someone else. So I said the same, 7 out of 10. I think it's quite fun still. I think it really lays the groundwork for the 2005 revival in a stylistic sense. More high octane, less like... So the thing about that I found myself difficult about watching the original Doctor Who is that it can be a bit slow, a bit plodding, whereas this is stylistically kind of what the 2005 revival almost becomes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of wish they'd adhered to canon a bit more with this half-human nonsense. The only thing that could have been quite damaging, considering they kept it in the canon, turns out they kind of basically ignored it. But the only thing that I think is like damaging on a similar level or bigger is something we hear and learn about later called the Timeless Child. So I think it would have been nice if they stuck to that. I'll probably, if they hadn't, genuinely, I think if they hadn't have said he was half-human, I would have given it 8 out of 10.
See, mate, I think it's obviously they lean into it so much in this, especially like when the Master goes, that makes sense because he's half human. It's like, oh, so that's already been established in their universe prior,
but it hasn't. Yeah,
like if it was just that one scene, like in the how it is in the book, where it's just that one bit where he does pass it off as a joke, it'd been fine because they go, okay, he was just making a joke to distract Wag, but because the Master references it like out of context to that scene, it's like, oh no, this is meant to be established lore.
Yeah, it isn't. It's not. Yeah, I don't like it. Just one more thing, like a bit of a wrap up about Paul McGann. Like, I think we'll do this at the end of each Doctor's run. We only see him twice more on screen, like we said, in the short The Night of the Doctor for the 50th anniversary. We get brief clips of him in other things like Day of the Doctor, where he appears as one of the ones saving the planet. It's stock footage. And then he appears in Power of the Doctor as one of the Guardians of the Edge. Apparently, if anything is called Of the Doctor, he'll appear in it. We'll talk about the Guardians of the Edge in fucking years' time. Years and years. Paul McGann has quipped that he is the George Lazenby of Doctor Who.
I mean, that's accurate.
Yeah, famously played James Bond only once.
Yeah.
I think so. It was a while back now, probably around the time of the 50th, actually. The 8th Doctor was revealed with a new look, shorter hair, a kind of shorter jacket, and he had like a sack short. He had a bit more like action ready.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's kind of the version leading into the Time War or whatever. I kind of like that look more. I think I'd like to.
I do as well. I think obviously, yeah, he said action heavy because like that's like right in the middle of the Time War.
Yeah,
or at least at the start of it.
And one thing, maybe if we ever get around to listening to some Big Finish, we'll talk about how sarcastic and dry he is. I'd like to discuss that.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Tim, we've got, before we get on to talking about our socials, we've got a couple of things to talk about. This is, like, as I said before, acts as an episode, a 50th episode of Cult Classic Society, but also the start of Timey Wimey Rewind. So let's talk about two things. I'll let you go first because it's your episode next. What is the next episode in, a month, maybe 6 weeks? We'll be back to you when it's ready as opposed to on a schedule. What is the next episode we're going to do for Cult Classic Society, episode 51?
So this is actually one that I'm really excited for, simply because this was going on at the same time as New Who. And rather than... It was also a show based around time travel, and it was on... Not a rival network, but I mean, it was on ITV. It's Primeval, which is a show basically where these anomalies open up and creatures from the past and potentially the future come into modern day, and it's like, how do these people handle that? And I remember when the show came out, like, especially around the second season, the marketing ramped up, and just caught an episode on TV is like, thought, wow, that's actually really good. So so I think it's good to see like what other networks are doing around with time travel. And I think especially now with Timey Wimey Rewind, it's the best time to actually approach the show. So how we'll be doing this, as now that we have way more time, and we've alluded to, we said in the last episode, but let's catch people up. Normally we would just watch maybe an episode or 2 or 4, like depending on the length, and we just go through those episodes as a whole. But now that we've given ourselves more time to watch it, we'll be watching the first 2 seasons, which I think are the most solid ones. I think they have the most compelling arcs because they both intersect together, and I think that's just like the peak of Primeval.
And much like this, we'll be discussing more the overarching plot points as opposed to every detail. And then we'll go through a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff like we do with this.
Absolutely. And yeah, really excited to see how this new format works with our mainline show.
The next episode we are jumping to with Timey Wimey Rewind is in 2005, the next canonical Doctor Who episode, The Ninth Doctor, 2005 revival. Christopher Eccleston playing the Ninth Doctor, Billy Piper playing Rose Tyler. What brought Doctor Who back is still running to this day, and that is where it started. We're going to kick off from there. Series 1, Episode 1. Let's do this, Tim. I'm excited to kick off this adventure.
I'm really excited for this. I can't wait.
This one was probably a bit longer because obviously it's a movie. It's an hour and a half as opposed to a 45-minute episode. This episode of the podcast will therefore be a bit longer. Probably find the same. Rose will probably be quite long as well because there's information about Doctor Who restarting. So there's quite a lot of that. And then we'll settle into a more rhythmic, probably 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. So bear with us for these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, these are going to be longer ones. And there might be some longer ones later with some of the specials and stuff. But yes. Cool. That's it. Where do we find you on the socials, Timothy?
You can find me on all the socials at the Tim Martini, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever people call it these days, TikTok. I'm on everything at the Tim Martini.
Yes, I'm on everything too: Instagram, Twitter, and the TikTok if I ever bother using it. At @bdavies_creative. We will endeavour with this launch of Timey Wimey Rewind to at least involve ourselves in some more Doctor Who stuff on Twitter and Instagram. Yes, you can follow the podcast at CC Society Pod or search Cult Classic Society. You'll find us. We'll still be using those handles to talk about Doctor Who as well. And that's it, yeah. And we'll see you in 2 weeks to talk about Rose, and we'll see you fairly soon to talk about Primeval.
See you guys next time.
See you later, mate.
Tim and Bobby break it down in the barrels, ripping through timelines with excitement. Podcast heroes in the timey-wimey segment. All the masters scheming in the shadows. Tim and Bobby break it down in the barrels, whipping through timelines with excitement. Podcast heroes in the timey-wimey segment. Oh, the TARDIS hums and goes through the air. Time's a puzzle, but who even cares? Bobby Tim got us through the murk and the mire. Timey-wimey world set us all on fire. Oh, the TARDIS hums and goes through the air. Time's a puzzle, but who even cares? Bobby Tim got us through the murk and the mire. Timey-wimey world set us all on fire.
Anyone to learn the Timey Wimey Rewind. Lift Doctor runs through darkness, light behind. Paul McGann's bringing life to the madness. TARDIS swirling, time splitting in the blackness.